see the forests or living beings of this territory and bring greetings from our ancestors to you and yours. One of the things that for us is really clear is that we never travel alone, so there may be 3 Māori people and 1 Māori child in this room. There are many of our ancestors that are sitting with us, and they come to greet you as we greet you, and as we acknowledge our place on your land on this day, which is a really very big day. And it's actually the first day I haven't been on our own land, on Waitangi Day. And I was sitting there yesterday thinking, I'm so used to being up in Waitangi with our flag. It's kind of unusual not to be there, and particularly knowing that a number of quite active things happened. So Waitangi Day for us was yesterday, if we take a Western time frame. And so it's, particularly honouring for us to be, both Veronica and I, and Veronica's whānau, her family here, to be here amongst you at this time. As Zora said, Waitangi, our treaty, or Te Tiriti o Waitangi, which is the Māori title for our treaty, we have a single treaty for all of our nations, was signed on this day in 1840. And what happened yesterday at home was there were a whole range of new policy directions came out that were particularly interesting, I thought, in relation to the Idle No More movement. We have Aotearoa for Idle No More, using the First Nations symbol that was gifted for people to use as a symbol of activism, linked with our colours, with our tribal colours, which is black, white and red. We have a very active group trying to promote some awareness around what's been happening, both with the Omnibus C45 and the Harbour Government movements, but also the more wider, broader Indigenous movement in terms of Great Turtle Island and the environmental underpinning in our role as Indigenous peoples to protect this great Mother Earth. And for us as Māori to protect Papatūānuku, which is our name for Mother Earth, and Rangi Nui, which is our name for Sky Father, and all living things between us for future generations. So the Idle No More movement has been quite significant for us coming up to this day of Waitangi Day. And interestingly, yesterday, our Conservative Prime Minister actually announced a move to look at Māori land reserves. We don't have reserves in the way that they constructed them here, but we had land that was put aside when they confiscated land and their failure to honour the treaty. And in doing that, their land was generally leased out in 99-year leases, so even though it's called Māori land, very few of our people actually live on that land. But there has been a new bill that's just been announced yesterday that links directly to the Omnibus bill, which is about accessing that land for economic development, which really means mining, fracking, deep sea drilling, all of the things that we've been fighting to keep at bay in our territory. And for those who are aware of there was a group, someone was saying there's a group that went from here, from Evergreen to Aotearoa, the year of the Christchurch earthquake. We've had a significant increase in earthquakes in our region, and earthquakes that have taken many lives over the past few years as the increase of fracking and deep sea drilling has occurred. So the movement here has been quite significant for us, and sadly we've been pretty slow picking it up within our own communities, but as Waitangi Day stood yesterday, it brings us back to the fundamentals of who we are. This is where I'm from, which is in the green. That is Taranaki, is a West Coast. We come from a West Coast tribe. And really I wanted to talk a little bit about how we define ourselves, which is a pre-treaty definition. One of the things around in terms of how we view Te Tiriti o Waitangi and that role is that there was a treaty and a covenant that was agreed to with our people, with the Crown, as a form of solidifying a relationship that would be true and honest and and create a pathway forward for future generations. But we're not defined by, our existence is not defined by the treaty. There's a relationship and a partnership. Our existence is defined by our land and defined by who we are. So where we come from our mountains, which is really significant and important to acknowledge the mountains of this region. So that is Taranaki, that is the mountain from which I come, from which my people come. Te Atiawa. Te Atiawa is also the people of the river. So we're also a river people. And within that relationship comes our relationship to the sea and the great sea of the oceans that run beside us also as a coastal people. Ko Te Taiorehua, which is the name of our sea, and which is called in English terms the Tasman Sea. So that's named after Abel Tasman, who also named our land New Zealand, which was his land, his title from Holland, from Zeelandia. So our land in 1769 was named the New Zealandia. But we're also similar, we're a wharenui people, similar to a longhouse. We have large carved gathering houses, and for those who haven't been to Aotearoa, these were the key and critical places for gathering and debating. And when we debated the treaty in 1840 on February 6th, there were a whole range of gatherings of people in Waitangi, which is in the north of the island, to engage and to talk about in this kind of tradition, and the gathering tradition, and the debating tradition, and an oral tradition, to talk about our relationship and how we wanted to forge forward in the treaty form. So being here, both in Olympia and in the wider Seattle region, a couple of years ago, I was a Fulbright. With, at UW with Uri, with the Karina Walters Centre there. It was almost upon landing, the relationship became very clear to me, and the links in terms of the mountains and the sea and the rivers and being coastal people and the relationship to the land and the significance of why we need to maintain that relationship as Indigenous peoples and as treaty peoples. One of the things that we've come to know at home very strongly is that, in fact, successive governments in our country haven't failed to honour the treaty because they don't know how to do it. They've failed to honour the treaty because it's not in their interest to do so. They've failed to honour the treaty because, in fact, they will put limitations on their ability to exploitation and commodification of our lands and our culture and our language. So where we battle on that level of attempting to have some form of honouring, we always know that the kind of governments will only honour within a constrained format, within a very defined and constricted way of doing it. And to come to that understanding was very clear. It was very clear that we really need to look at other ways of doing things. And protest, for those of you who know my people, we fly a lot of flags. We're good at getting on the street. We will march the street. We will put 50,000 people on the street, and Veronica will talk about that. What we tend to do is that in trying to live a daily life in a way that actually sustains our people, that we tend to then have to be quite issues focused. So it's often an issue focus that will get us on the street, that will get us moving en masse, that will actually have us acknowledging a treaty relationship and a lack of ability for successive governments to bring in the